The afternoon sun hit the Lagos lagoon like 1,000 tiny mirrors. Cars rushed across the long bridge, horns echoing, wind tugging at clothes and hair. On the high concrete edge stood Sandra Okoro, 8 months pregnant, her green gown fluttering like a flag in a storm. Tears ran down her face. She stared at the deep water below and tried to breathe, but her chest felt tight. Her phone kept buzzing in her hand. News alerts, angry messages, and one picture that burned like fire. Her husband, David, in handcuffs, head down, being led into a prison van. Another alert showed her company, Sandhair, on the news again. $10 million gone in one day. Her employees scared about their jobs. Her board shouting, her name on every blog. Billionaire CEO loses everything. Husband arrested for fraud. It felt like a wall was closing in. Maybe the water will be quiet, she whispered, placing a hand on her big belly. The baby moved. She swallowed hard. I'm sorry. She lifted one foot. I can help you. The voice came soft but clear, like it slipped through all the noise and found her heart. Sandra froze. She looked left, then right. No one was near her. I can help you recover your loss and prove your husband is innocent, the voice said again. A little louder now. Do not kill yourself and your baby. Your husband in prison needs you. The baby inside you is innocent. Stop. Let me help you. Sandra turned slowly. A man stood a few steps away, hands raised to show he meant no harm. He was thin and dark-skinned, with an overgrown beard and hair that looked like it had never met a comb. His ash coat was torn at the sleeve. His trousers were dusty. He looked like someone who had slept under a bridge and had seen too many hard nights. How did you know? Sandra asked, shaking. How do you know about the money? How do you know about David? The man's eyes were gentle. My name is George, he said. And I know because, despite being like this, I can read people's minds. Maybe that's the one gift that didn't ruin with me. Sandra blinked through her tears. Read minds? He nodded once. Not everything. Not always. But enough to see your pain. Enough to hear what your heart is shouting. He glanced at her stomach. Enough to know your baby is scared because you are scared. A wind gust pushed at her. A truck roared by. Somewhere a hawker shouted about cold drinks. The world kept moving like nothing was wrong. Sandra stepped down from the edge. Her legs felt weak. If you are lying to me, I will never forgive you, she said softly. I'm not lying, George said. I can help. But we need your laptop. Sandra stared at him. The last person she would ever trust with her life and her company was a stranger in tattered clothes. And yet, his voice steadied her. It was the only thing in the day that felt solid. She nodded. Come. They walked to the black Bentley, parked on the shoulder. Drivers slowed to stare. Some raised phones to take pictures. Billionaire on the bridge. Is she okay? Who's that man? Who's that man? Sandra didn't care. She unlocked the Bentley. George slid into the passenger seat. As she started the engine, her hand still shook, but the fire in her chest was no longer burning her alive. It was now a small light, thin, but real. The ride to Lekki felt like moving through two worlds. Outside, the city flashed by buses packed tight. Hawkers waving sachet water, billboards for hair and phones and new estates. Inside, the car was quiet, the AC steady, and the smell of her baby's tiny blanket in the back seat brought sudden warmth. She glanced at George from time to time. He sat with his hands folded, careful not to touch anything, eyes watching the road, not her. Why are you helping me? She asked at a red light. He looked at her and told the truth. Because I've been where you are at the edge, and because gifts are not for hiding. She nodded, biting her lip. The light turned green. They entered her mansion's tall gate. Security guards stared, confused. Madam, is everything? It's okay, she said. He's with me. Inside the living room, the air smelled like lemon polish and fresh flowers. A giant painting of ocean waves filled one wall. The floor shone. Everything was clean and quiet, but Sandra's heart was still loud. She brought out her gold laptop and set it on the marble table. Her hands hovered over it like they were afraid to wake a sleeping monster. George sat on the edge of the couch, straight-backed, as if it was not his place to rest. May I? He asked. Please. she said. He washed his hands in the guest bathroom first. When he came back, he wiped his fingers with a clean towel. He did not want to stain anything. Then he opened the laptop and began. His fingers moved fast but careful, like a pianist who had been silent for years and was touching keys again. He asked for two things: her bank statements and the server logs for Sandhair's store. She sent quick messages to her CFO and her IT manager to open access. They were already online, panicking, typing long messages about auditors and board meetings and a press release. She wrote only, "Access now." The files came in. George's eyes changed as he read, calm, sharp, awake. He did not look like a man with torn sleeves anymore. He looked like a man who understood codes the way other people understood faces. "Is this safe?" Sandra asked. He nodded. "I'm not breaking anything. I'm just following crumbs." He showed her simple things she could understand. "See this? This is when the money left. Not just one move, many tiny moves in minutes. Like someone took a big cake and cut it into many small slices. See this other line? That's your server talking to someone it should not talk to. A ghost with many masks." He kept going. "This is the strange part. The ghost used your company's keys, but they were not inside your office. And here," he pointed to a long line of letters and numbers. "This is like a home address on the internet, but this one tries to hide behind other houses." Sandra frowned. "Can you find who it is?" George nodded again. "Yes, but it might make someone angry." Her phone buzzed. It was a message from a board member. "We need you at the meeting. PR is burning. Please respond." Sandra put the phone face down. "Make them angry," she said. George's mouth twitched, almost a smile. He opened more windows. He traced a path from Lagos to a faraway island, then back to Lagos again. "They are hiding in plain sight," he murmured, "like someone wearing a big hat in your living room." He paused. "Tell me about David," he said softly. Sandra swallowed. "He is a data scientist. He is kind. He teaches our daughter's school coding club on Saturdays." Her hand flew to her mouth. "Oh God," I said, "daughter. We don't have a daughter." "We have." She looked down at her belly and laughed through fresh tears. "We have this little one. See what today has done to me?" George's eyes softened. "You are very tired," he said. She nodded. "They said David's card was used to steal 15 million from someone else. A woman named Jennifer. He was nowhere near the place. He was with me. But they said the camera saw his name, so they picked him up. He kept shouting, 'Sandra, check my laptop, check my phone, check my keys.' I didn't do this. But the police didn't listen." George typed again. "I will listen," he said. For a moment, the living room felt like a chapel. The only sounds were the soft click of keys and the AC humming. Outside, the evening light grew warmer, stretching shadows across the rug. Then George stopped. He leaned forward. "Here," he whispered. "Someone left a fingerprint." He zoomed in on a tiny piece of data hidden inside a file name. He followed it to a cloud service. He followed that to a phone backup. He followed that to a note saved at 2:13 a.m., the night the money disappeared. The note had a joke in it. A very silly joke that meant nothing except to one person. Sandra covered her mouth. "No," she breathed. "No, it can't be." George looked at her. "You recognize it?" She nodded, shaking. "David used to tell that joke in university. Only one person laughed every time. He laughed like a goat. We teased him for weeks." Her eyes filled. "He was our friend." George's fingers paused above the keys. "What was his name?" Footsteps sounded in the hallway, quick, worried. A guard knocked. "Madam, there is a car outside." The driver refused to give his name. "He says he's here for you." Sandra's phone lit up with a new message from an unknown number. "Don't go to the police. You don't know who you're fighting." Her skin went cold. She looked at George. He lowered his voice. "We are close," he said. "Very close. The same hands took your money and framed David. And those hands belong to someone who knows your house, your habits, your life." He clicked one last time. A name flashed on the screen, tied to a backup email, tied to the silly joke, tied to the ghost with many masks. George drew in a breath. "Sandra," he said, eyes lifting to hers. The person who did this is... The lights in the mansion flickered. The laptop screen went dark. From outside, a car horn blared once, then twice, then a long, angry blast. Sandra's phone buzzed again. A new message appeared, only 3 words long. I see you. For one long breath, the mansion was dark and quiet. The laptop screen went black. The AC sigh stopped. Even the painting of the ocean on the wall looked still, like it was holding its breath with them. Sandra's phone glowed in her hand. I see you. Her stomach tightened. The baby kicked. George spoke softly. It's a scare message, he said. He wants you to stop. From the gate came another horn, one short, one long, then a rude, angry blast that made the guards shout outside. Sandra found her voice. Turn on the generator, she called to the closest guard. Now, please. Yes, madam. The guard ran. George took a small pouch from his pocket. Inside was a tiny silver drive and a thin cable. I brought this, he said, matter of fact. In case someone kills the power, it lets us start your laptop from a clean place where his spy cannot live. Sandra blinked. You planned for this? I have seen bullies like this, he said. They like shadows. We will use light. The generator coughed to life. The lights came back. The AC hummed again. The laptop still showed dark, but George pressed a key, slid in the tiny drive, and pressed one more key. The screen lit up with a plain, calm window. He connected the laptop to Sandra's phone hotspot, not the house Wi-Fi. Why not the house Wi-Fi? Sandra asked. Because he's inside it, George said. Like a rat in the walls. She shivered. On the screen, lines and tiny boxes returned. Not scary anymore, just steps on a path. George moved with care. He did not rush. He built a copy of the files they had, like someone making a backup of family pictures. Then he went back to where they had stopped. Sandra, he said quietly, we were at the last door. She nodded, holding the top of the couch to steady herself. Open it. He followed the crumbs again, small transfers, tiny notes, fake names. A silly goat joke saved at 2:13 He traced the ghost to a cloud service, then to an old email used only for backups, then to a phone that once sat in their house, Wi-Fi many times. He tapped a final key. A name connected to the backup email blinked onto the screen. Sandra's heart thumped in her ears. She whispered the name before George could say it. Andrew Johnson. George looked up. You know him. She closed her eyes. David's friend since university. He set up our first office router. He sat at our wedding table. He held our hands when we were scared to start Sandhair. He knew our passwords from the early days. He laughed at that goat joke for weeks. George spoke softly. He knows your rhythms. When you wake up. When you sleep. When the guards change. Sandra's phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Stay inside. Don't be stupid. Then, a second later, Airport Road is busy. You can't catch me. The horn outside blared again. The guard from the gate called on the intercom. Madam, the driver says he has a delivery for you. No name, no paper. George shook his head. Do not open. Sandra pressed the intercom. Do not open the gate. Tell him to leave. Yes, madam. George returned to the screen. We need more than a name, he said. We need proof a judge will respect. He opened a file of server logs and pointed with his finger as he spoke in simple words. This is the night your money left. The ghost used your keys, but from outside your building. Here, he tapped again, is the same ghost testing David's bank card on small things first, like a market snack, before the big theft came, so the bank would not shout too early. Sandra's eyes widened, like someone dipping a toe in water before swimming. Yes, he said. And here, he zoomed in. The thief forgot to turn off a tiny tag that phones leave when they talk to the internet. It's like a whisper. I am an XYZ brand phone, version 12. That same whisper shows up hours later on your home Wi-Fi name, Sandhair Secure. That means the same phone that stole your money was also in your house at a different time. Sandra covered her mouth. Only a friend could come in like that. George nodded. A friend, or someone the guards knew to wave in. Sandra's chest rose and fell. She thought of the day Andrew came to fix the Wi-Fi, laughing, holding a bag of suya for the staff. She thought of David asking Andrew to help install cameras. She thought of late-night games in their living room, Andrew knocking his glass and saying, "Sorry, I'm clumsy," while he wiped the table and maybe looked at passwords on screens without asking. George kept going. He used many masks. But his mistake was pride. He saved a big file with a silly name he thought was funny. Inside that file is a link to a travel plan. George clicked, then stopped. "Sandra, this is a flight booking." Sandra leaned forward. The letters were clear even to her tired eyes. Lagos, Dubai. Tonight. 9:45 p.m. Her mouth went dry. "He's running." "Yes," George said. "He thinks he has time." Sandra stood straighter. Her voice found strength she did not know she had left. "We call the police." She picked up her phone, then stopped. "I don't know who to trust." "Some officers. They listen to whoever shouts first." George nodded. "Do you know one person, a clean one?" Sandra scrolled. She stopped on a name. "CSP Kemi Adeoye," she said. "She helped us with a fake wigs case last year. She was fair." "Call her," George said. The phone rang twice. "Sandra?" Kemi's voice was firm and warm. "I saw the news. Are you safe?" "For now," Sandra said. "Someone hacked Sandhair and framed my husband. We have a name, we have proof. He's trying to fly tonight." "Name," Kemi said quickly. "Andrew Johnson." Silence for one beat. Then Kemi breathed out. "I know that name," she said. "He worked on a private case for a bank once. Very smart, very proud." Paper rustled on her end. "Listen carefully. Do not use your house Wi-Fi. Do not send me anything on open lines. My team will come in plain clothes. 20 minutes. Keep your phone close. And Sandra, stay away from the windows." As Sandra ended the call, the gate intercom crackled again. "Madam," the guard whispered, "the car outside has turned off its lights. I cannot see the driver's face. He is still there." George's eyes went to the ceiling corner where a small camera sat. He walked over and looked at the live feed on the wall screen. The house cameras showed only grain, like snow. "He jammed them," George said. "He was here before. He hid a tiny jammer somewhere, and he turned it on. He moved like he knew every step. He opened a drawer and took a flashlight. 'Show me your router room,' he said. 'The place where the internet box lives.'" Sandra led him down the hallway. The baby kicked again, stronger, as if saying, "Keep going, Mama." Sandra put a hand on her stomach. "I'm with you," she whispered. They reached a small room where a tall black box hummed with wires. George bent and switched it off. "We starve the rat," he said. He looked under the shelf, behind the cables, then on top of the door frame. He found a tiny square stuck with tape no bigger than a biscuit. He held it up. "Jammer?" he said. "This is why your cameras died." He dropped it in a bowl of water from the bathroom sink. It sank with a soft plop. Back in the living room, he took Sandra's printer and pressed buttons. A pile of pages slid out clear pictures of the money trail, the phone tags, the joke, the booking. "These are for the police," he said. "We'll also bring a copy on this drive." Sandra looked at the neat stack and felt the first clean breath of the day. Not joy yet, not victory, but a road. Her phone buzzed again. A new unknown text. "Too late, Sandra." Another followed at once. "Tell your friend in the old coat to stop playing hero." George's eyes hardened for the first time. "He can see us?" he asked. Sandra shook her head. "The curtains are closed." George took her phone gently. He pressed 2 keys. His face went from hard to very still. "Sandra," he said, "this text used your house internet 3 minutes ago." Her skin went cold. "But we turned off the router." "Yes," he said, "which means this phone connected before we turned it off. It is not outside. It was already inside the compound." A soft sound came from upstairs. Not loud, not a bang, just the slow, careful weight of a foot on wood. Then another. Then the tiny creak of a door that did not want to cry, but could not stay silent. George set the papers down and looked at the stairs. Sandra's hand went to her belly. The baby moved again. The house held its breath. Somewhere above them, a shadow shifted, and the faint beam of a phone screen glowed and went dark. George whispered, "We are not alone." The sound from upstairs was faint but sharp enough to slice through Sandra's chest. She froze, hand pressed tight to her belly. The baby kicked again, as if it too felt the danger. George's eyes darted to the staircase, his body tense, like a man who had lived with danger for years. He whispered, "Someone is inside your house." The air in the mansion grew heavy, every second stretching like hours. The guards at the gate hadn't raised any alarm, which meant whoever was upstairs had come in silently or had been let in. Sandra's heart thumped so hard it echoed in her ears. She leaned closer to George. "What do we do?" George lowered his voice. "We don't panic. We don't run yet. Whoever it is doesn't know we know. That's our advantage." He picked up the stack of printed evidence and slid it under the couch cushion. Then he handed Sandra the small silver drive. "Hide this on you. Do not let it out of your hands. Even if they smash the laptop, this drive carries everything." Sandra slipped it into her bra, her fingers trembling. "Are you sure this is safe?" "Nothing is safe tonight," George said softly, "but this gives us a fighting chance." A floorboard groaned above them. Slow steps, pacing, as though someone was waiting, watching. George picked up the flashlight again. "Stay here," he whispered. "No," Sandra hissed. "You can't go up there." "What if—" "I've lived under bridges for 10 years, Sandra," George cut in, his voice calm but firm. "I know the sound of footsteps that want to harm. Trust me, I'll draw him out." Before Sandra could answer, the intercom crackled. One of the guards' voices came through, shaky. "Madam, someone just walked out of the side gate. I thought he was one of your husband's old friends, so I didn't stop him. But he didn't sign the book." Sandra's stomach turned to stone. "Andrew," she whispered. George shook his head. If it was Andrew, why stay inside after sending those texts? No. That was a decoy. As if to confirm his words, Sandra's phone buzzed again. Another text from the unknown number. "Your house is not yours anymore. Leave if you want to live." Her hands shook so badly she almost dropped the phone. "George, he's playing with us." "Yes," George said. "Which means he's afraid. People who are winning don't waste time scaring you. He's running, but he wants to leave you broken." Suddenly, a loud bang shattered the silence, glass breaking in the kitchen. Sandra screamed, clutching her stomach. The guards outside shouted and rushed toward the back of the house. George grabbed Sandra's wrist. "Stay low." He guided her behind the heavy dining table. "Do not move until I say." From the kitchen came footsteps, this time fast, heavy, reckless. Whoever it was wasn't hiding anymore. A man's voice cursed under his breath. Drawers opened, slammed shut. Metal clattered. Sandra's heart nearly stopped. "He's looking for the laptop." The footsteps drew closer, moving toward the living room. George positioned himself near the wall, flashlight gripped like a weapon. His eyes never blinked. The figure emerged from the dark hallway, a tall man in black, face hidden under a cap, gloves on his hands. He spotted the laptop on the table and rushed toward it. George stepped out. "Looking for something?" The man spun, startled. His eyes met George's, then flicked toward Sandra, crouched behind the table. A cruel smile curled on his lips. "So it's true," the man said, his voice low and mocking. "The billionaire's wife and her pet beggar." Sandra's blood ran cold. She knew that voice. It wasn't Andrew, it was someone closer, someone she never expected. George raised the flashlight higher, ready to strike. "Sandra," he whispered, never breaking eye contact with the intruder. "Tell me who this is." Sandra's lips trembled. She struggled to breathe, to form the words. But she finally managed to whisper the name. The man laughed. "Say it louder, Sandra. Let your little friend hear who really betrayed you." Her throat burned as she forced the name out. It was not Andrew. It was someone from her own house. Sandra's voice cracked as the name escaped her lips. "Chike, my driver." The tall man in black grinned, tipping his cap back just enough for his face to show. It was indeed Chike, the man who had driven her for 3 years, the man who carried her shopping bags, the man who once sang softly to her when she wept in the back seat after her father's burial. Now his eyes were sharp with greed. "Finally," Chike sneered, "you see who's been closer than your shadow." Sandra's body went weak. She leaned against the table, clutching her stomach. "Why, Chike? Why would you do this to me?" You ate in my house. You watched over me when David was away. Why? Because loyalty doesn't pay bills, he spat. You billionaires use us, then forget us. Andrew gave me an offer too sweet. I let him in. I gave him your Wi-Fi password. I showed him where David kept his notes. And when the money moved, I got my cut. Enough to vanish from this cursed country. George's eyes narrowed. You sold them for crumbs. Chaik pulled a small pistol from under his jacket. Sandra gasped and held her belly tighter as if to shield the baby. Don't play hero, beggar, Chaik warned. This isn't your fight. He pointed the gun toward the couch. Where are the papers? Where's the drive? George raised both hands slowly. His calm voice cut through the tension. You think taking the laptop will save you? Andrew already booked his flight. He'll leave you to rot the moment the plane door shuts. For the first time, doubt flickered in Chike's eyes. You're lying. George shook his head. I traced the booking myself. Dubai. Tonight. Seat 17A. Did Andrew buy one for you? Or did he just promise? Chike hesitated, the gun trembling slightly. Sandra seized the moment. Chike, listen. Andrew will betray you just like you betrayed us. He'll take the money and disappear. And you, what will you have? A gun, a dirty conscience, and a cell. The sound of tires screeched outside the gate. Flashing lights cut through the curtains. Police. Chike's head whipped toward the window. No, he muttered. No, they can't be here already. George moved fast. In one swift motion, he flung the flashlight at Chike's wrist. The gun clattered to the floor. Chike lunged for it, but George kicked it away. Sandra screamed as the two men struggled, crashing against the table. Plates shattered, the laptop nearly fell. The front door burst open. Officers in plain clothes stormed in, guns raised. Drop it now! CSP Kemi's voice boomed. Chike froze, chest heaving, sweat pouring down his face. His eyes darted between the officers, Sandra and George. For one wild second, Sandra thought he might run, but then, defeated, he lifted his hands slowly. As the police cuffed him, Sandra locked eyes with Chike. He looked smaller now, pathetic, not the trusted driver she once knew. And yet, one truth still burned in her mind: Chike was only a tool. The real enemy was still out there, boarding a plane, smiling like he had already won. The ride to Murtala Mohammed International Airport felt endless. Sandra sat in the back of the police SUV, one hand over her belly, the other gripping the silver drive George had given her. George sat beside her, silent, his eyes fixed on the flashing city lights rushing by. Ahead of them, CSP Kemi's voice crackled through the police radio, giving sharp instructions. All units, converge on Terminal 2. Suspect Andrew Johnson, male, mid-30s, tall glasses. He must not leave. Sandra's mind spun. What if we are too late? What if the plane has already taken off? The thought of David spending another night in prison broke her heart. When they arrived, the airport buzzed with travelers, dragging suitcases. Voices calling over loudspeakers. Children crying for snacks. Everything looked normal except for the team of officers blending into the crowd. Eyes sharp, moving like hunters. George touched Sandra's shoulder gently. Stay here. This moment will be dangerous. But Sandra shook her head. No. My husband is in prison because of him. My company is almost gone because of him. I will see this through. Kemi approached, dressed in plain clothes, her badge hidden under her jacket. We just got word. He's already on the plane. Dubai flight, seat 17A. She glanced at Sandra. We'll get him out. The officers moved quickly, forming a tight unit. They strode toward the gate. Passengers glanced curiously, some lifting phones to record, unaware history was unfolding. Inside the plane, Andrew Johnson sat near the window, scrolling his phone with a smug smile. He adjusted his designer glasses and leaned back, certain he had outsmarted everyone. Then the captain's voice boomed overhead. Attention. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a slight delay. Please remain seated. The doors hissed open. CSP Kemi stepped in with her team. Andrew Johnson, she announced, her voice cutting through the cabin. You are under arrest for wire fraud, conspiracy and theft. Andrew froze. His phone slipped from his hand. Passengers gasped, whispering, Some pulled out cameras, eager for drama. "Excuse me," Andrew stammered, forcing a smile. "There must be a mistake. I'm a consultant. George appeared behind Kemi, holding the printed evidence. "No mistake. Your pride left fingerprints everywhere. The goat joke, the travel file, the cloned card. All yours." Andrew's face drained of color. His eyes darted toward the aisle, toward the emergency exit, anywhere to escape. But armed officers blocked every path. As they cuffed him, Andrew's eyes found Sandra standing just outside the cabin door. Her hands trembled, but her gaze was steady. "You betrayed David," she said, her voice breaking. "You betrayed us all." Andrew opened his mouth, but no words came, only silence. The officers dragged him out of the plane, his expensive shoes scraping against the floor. Passengers clapped. Some booed. Others shook their heads in disbelief. Sandra pressed a hand to her belly. The baby moved, calm now, as if it knew the storm had passed. That night, evidence flowed to the court. Within days, David was released from prison, walking free into the arms of his wife, who held him tighter than ever before. But as they embraced, George's words echoed quietly. "This isn't the end. Betrayal always leaves shadows." If you like this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.